Hello and welcome to this edition of Wineskins. I'm Father Jim Korda. Wineskins is a program that features reflections on the lives of the saints and the sacred scriptures, along with a variety of issues and topics, all from a Catholic perspective. Wineskins is brought to you through the annual Diocesan Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our program today, I will interview Rachel Hrbolich and Jennifer Lucarelli. We will also hear more information on St. Romuald, and today, as the Church celebrates the 11th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we will get a deeper insight into those particular Sunday readings. That and more on Wineskins. In our current issue segment, I will speak with Dennis Biviano. With me now is Dennis Biviano, who is the Public Relations and Media Specialist for the Diocese. Welcome to our show.
Father Korda, it's great to be with you.
You know, I'm glad you're on the show finally, and it's an opportunity for us to get to know you better. You're really the voice of the diocese now. You have really translated from your on-air and past experience as a news reporter into this new position. What do you bring from your old work in television and the media to this new position with the Church?
Well, definitely the ability to multitask. I thought, after 20 years in, this would be a good opportunity, 42 years old, to move into a different position and return to the Valley at the same time. Mm-hmm. So, I bring the expertise in shooting video and writing scripting, helping out with podcasts and in the press releases, so a multitude of different tasks.
The one thing that I've come to learn in the communication field is that we don't do it alone. It's really kind of a team effort. How does working with a team here in the diocese help you in your work as the media specialist?
The last couple of years, and especially during the pandemic, it felt like sometimes working from home, you're working from an island.
Right.
And, joining this team, it's just been a great collaboration, bouncing ideas off one another. That's very important. Knowing that if you're off a day, somebody has your back. And that constant communication, it's really a great thing that's been going on so far.
The one thing that I like about communication is that we've got this great gift, radio, television, the print, which I believe are gifts from God. And to use those to benefit not only the Church, but one another. How do we use those gifts more effectively in a better way to build up the Church?
I think you need to look for stories that, different interesting characters out there shed positive light on the community. I love getting out into the community. I'm going to be coming up here on YouTube, on our regular Facebook page and website. I'm going to be doing a bunch of features. I'm going to be talking about Rhoda Wise House. I'm going to show you Sister Joyce Candidi's story. She has a great backstory in 50 years in religious life. So that's sort of piggybacking on what I did, in my years working as a reporter. And once you get that bug, that mentality never leaves you.
It's interesting because as you were talking, this is all a ministry. This is really not just your career and your work, but it's also a ministry. How does that translate into your everyday work here, using that word ministry?
I think there's a lot I need to learn, and I think that this is obviously an opportunity to strengthen my faith and strengthen my skills. I'm constantly learning and, picking the brains of my coworkers, definitely yourself, Bishop Bonner, and everybody around. I think there's definitely a learning curve involved, and I'm looking forward to that.
Now, since you work primarily in public relations and media, we know that nowadays the news is not always good. It's not that you spin it to make it bad news to good news, but why is it important for us to, first of all, be honest and transparent when we communicate the news, but also to look for the good and the blessings in that?
Yeah, and I think I bring that perspective. I know what reporters want out there, and I know what information that we need to give them. And I think that's very important to be positive, reflect upon the mission of the Church, and get new voices involved and younger people involved in this Church.
Well, that's one of the important things I think we do as churches, to get not only just young people, but everyone involved. We know that because of the pandemic and many other reasons, there's been an attrition within the Church. We see that within the priesthood. We see that in religious life. What can we as the diocese, especially in the realm of communications, do to be more positive and more uplifting and to promote who we are as a diocesan church?
I think we're trying to do that on Facebook. We're being more engaging. We're encouraging others to be more engaging. We're putting posts that increase engagement online. And there'll be negative posts from time to time, but there's going to be so much more positive out there for folks, and I think we really need to share that message of positivity.
What has been the greatest joy that you've experienced within these last 6 months here working at the diocese? What is it that really motivates you and gives you life?
Well, just running into Bishop Bonner, he's so upbeat. He puts you in a good mood. There's just been so many, folks here that have really been complimentary. Just our team meetings are fun. Just throwing out ideas. This communication team's been built from the ground, the last couple of years, and expounding upon that and looking forward to so many different ideas in the future. It just excites me.
Dennis Biviano, Public Relations and Media Specialist for the Diocese, thank you for your time on our show today. We look forward to hearing more of you and seeing more of you, especially on social media. We thank you for your commitment to the positive, the good news that we are as a diocesan church, but also not being afraid to tell the true story and the blessing that we are as God's people.
And thank you for your guidance as well. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. Saint Romuald was an abbot at Saint Apollinari. To tell us more is Bobby Bankovich. She is from St. Paul Church in North Canton.
Romuald was born in Ravenna, Italy, of a noble family around the year 951. When his father killed another man in a duel, Romuald was so affected that he retired to a Benedictine monastery. He remained there for 3 years, but he was so observant of the rule that he aroused the animosity of the lax monks, especially when he tried to give them fraternal correction. With the abbot's permission, he moved to the vicinity of Venice and placed himself under the direction of a hermit. For the next 30 years, Romuald traveled extensively throughout Italy, founding monasteries and hermitages. He also suffered a prolonged period of spiritual dryness, and when it ended, he obtained permission to join a group that was going to Hungary as missionaries. He tried several times to carry out his plan, but each time he entered Hungary, he immediately became seriously ill. He took that as a sign that it was not God's will that he engage in that apostolate. In 994, he returned to Ravenna, and eventually in 1012, he founded what was to become the Order of Hermits. After some years, Romuald returned to his travels. He died alone in his cell at the monastery of Val di Castro. In 1595, Pope Clement VIII approved a feast of the translation of his relics to Fabriano. The opening prayer refers to Romuald's mission in the church, namely, to renew the life of solitude and prayer. He adapted the rule of St. Benedict so that in addition to liturgical prayer and manual labor, the monks could devote themselves to solitude and private personal prayer. According to his plan, there were 2 classes of monks, the hermits and the recluses. The first lived in separate cells, but prayed the Liturgy of the Hours in common at designated times. The recluses, however, did not leave their hermitages for any reason whatever. They even had their own private altars for the celebration of the Eucharist. The austerity of hermit life was somewhat mitigated by the time the constitutions were approved by Pope Alexander II in 1072. Although a hermit by temperament and lifestyle, Romuald was also aware of the problems of the Church in his day. He responded to the request of the emperor to have his monks go forth to evangelize Poland, Bohemia, and Russia, but without much success. As we have seen, he himself wanted to be a missionary to Hungary. In the opening prayer, we ask that he may attain to the joy of heaven by following Christ through self-denial. The phrase, "Bring us the joy of heaven," strikes an eschatological note that is especially relevant to the hermit style of life. Totally withdrawn from the world to a life of prayer and solitude, these hermits have their gaze fixed constantly on the life that is to come. Their holy founder, St. Romuald, an outstanding reformer of the monastic life in his day, serves as an exemplary reminder to monks of today to be faithful to the observances of the monastic life. For Wineskins, I'm Bobby Bankovich.
Welcome back to our show. I'm talking with Rachel Hrbolich, who is the Director of Catholic Charities for the Diocese, and Jennifer Lucarelli, the Project Manager, also for Catholic Charities. One of the things that we talked about, Jennifer, is the Community Resource Guide. Talk about that specifically and why is that important and how can they find that at their disposal?
When Bishop Bonner first came to our diocese, he tasked us with this project of developing a community resource guide that was accessible to all service professionals and clients alike. So it's a two-part system. We have a printed document book that we update annually, linked to our website that is customizable and searchable by county. So any of the clients in the Diocese of Youngstown, the 6 counties, can go online and drill down to exactly what type of service they're looking for. If they need clothing in Ashtabula County, they can find that. If they need food in Portage County, there's ways to find that. As Catholic Charities, we can't service every possible need there is, so it's important for us to be able to work with other community organizations that are offering some of the similar services, or maybe services that we don't offer that they can supplement. So for clients and service providers, it's a great tool to have.
And I'd like to talk a little bit more about that because it's not just the work of the Catholic Church here in the Diocese of Youngstown that's providing these many services, but you work hand in hand with other local agencies. Talk a little bit more about that, Rachel.
Collaboration is really key. We couldn't do the work that we do without collaborating with our community partners. And it's important that we're present in the community and that we're at the table with those other service providers. The needs that we are seeing these days among our clients are very complex, very complicated. We could not address the breadth of need that we see without being able to collaborate. So we have great relationships in the communities that we serve with other service providers so that we can best serve the clients, so that we can provide those wraparound services to make sure that all of their needs are being addressed in some way.
Let's talk about social services really as part of Catholic Charities, but what makes up social services? I know we touched on it earlier in our show, but let's be a little bit more specific about social services.
Sure. So, basic needs, our core service is, providing the food, the housing, the utilities, all of those corporal works of mercy that you mentioned earlier. But we try to add a little something extra, and that something extra is case management or casework, so that we're not just giving someone food, but we're sitting with them, talking about why they're in the position that they're in, looking at their budget, helping them to make some decisions about things that are wants versus needs, and how we can avoid falling into this situation down the road. So we are trying to go that extra mile with our clients so that we can break them out of this cycle that they're in and help them work toward greater financial self-sufficiency. So that's really where the social work dimension comes in, with that extra time with clients. It takes time. The appointments that we have with clients, it takes longer when you're working with them versus just handing them something. But we see that the results that we get, they're much more beneficial for everyone.
That's really what we are all about as the church, is sitting down with people. It's about relationships. It's about being the hands and the heart and the soul of Jesus as well. It's one thing to just hand out a voucher or a gas card or pay someone's utility, but to sit down and actually talk with them to see what their own needs are. It might be the first time in a long time that that individual actually had anyone that talked with them and they cared about them and really related to them as a human being. And that's what Charities is all about, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. In fact, it's our tagline. Not only do we provide help, but we create hope.
I'd like to go back to that word hope because I think that's what Catholic Charities gives to people. There's an opportunity for a lot of people in the church to give a lot of different things, but to give someone hope, especially in such a divided, such a complex world that we find ourselves in, is really a great gift. The other gift that we give is a sense of faithfulness, because what we're about as charities is to be faithful to the mission of the Lord. And maybe the greatest gift that we can give is a gift of love. What is something that the agencies do in the name of the love of God, specifically for its people?
Well, I think in everything we do, we try to recognize the face of Jesus in those who come to us for help. So offering hospitality when people come in, taking that time, as you said, to listen to people. A lot of the people who call us, they're disregarded by society, they're not heard. So just to be someone on the other end of the phone or on the other side of the window at the agency who will listen, that's a big part of it for sure.
And I think one of the things that we do want to mention, and I think I spoke with the bishop about this earlier, is that the agency is not just for Catholics, but it's for everyone in need. And so in the 6 counties of the Diocese of Youngstown, Catholic Charities tries to serve the needs of all its people. Why is that important?
That is one of the most common misconceptions about Catholic Charities, is that you have to be Catholic to get help from us, and that's absolutely untrue. We help as resources allow us, anyone who comes to us in need. So we encourage anyone who would need any of the services that we provide to give us a call, to come to our agencies. We're welcoming to everyone.
And I know there's different ways that people around the diocese could find Catholic Charities. Social media is certainly one of those outlets. And Jennifer, I know you're part of that. Talk briefly about the social media arm of Catholic Charities.
Well, it all starts with our website. The best, most up-to-date resource for any of our donors, clients, volunteers, or staff is the website. So I would first and foremost direct people there. And then throughout all of our social media channels, we try to give updated information about what's happening in different areas of the diocese at different times, whether it's a successful client story or a fundraising opportunity or a volunteer opportunity. We try to keep people informed and engaged.
What would you like to leave the folks that are with us about Catholic Charities and what they can do to support the work of charity?
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank anyone who participates in the annual diocesan appeal, because as I mentioned earlier, that really is a critical source of funding for what happens at the diocesan level as well as the local agency level. So to thank all of those people, and also the donors who give gifts to Catholic Charities directly. We've been very successful in recent years in increasing those donations. Jennifer's a big part of that effort. So we're grateful for all who give of their treasure, as well as our volunteers who give of their time and talent, because we could not do this work without bringing others who are people of goodwill in with us to do that work.
Jennifer, one final comment.
I just also wanted to express my thanks for the donors, the volunteers, even our staff who go above and beyond every day.
Rachel Hrbolich, Jennifer Lucarelli, thank you for the vocation and ministry that you provide Catholic Charities here, especially in the Diocese of Youngstown. And for the folks that are with us, if they want more information and to listen to this program, they can go to www.catholicecho.org.
The Catholic Echo magazine is delivered free of charge to anyone who is registered at a parish in the Diocese of Youngstown. But subscriptions are also available for non-parishioners. A subscription costs $40 per year, and you can buy one for yourself or gift a subscription to a loved one. Email catholicecho@youngstowndiocese.org for more information.
If you have a story idea for the Catholic Echo magazine, podcast, or website, send an email to catholicecho@youngstowndiocese.org. We'd love to hear your ideas.
Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy.
Our song today is from the CD called Rejoice in Hope. It is by the Daughters of St. Paul.
My soul,
As we celebrate this 11th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we will hear more about the sacred scriptures by Father Ray Thomas.
How often have we discovered God's ways are not our ways? God will present us something and offer us something, but how often have we chosen something else for ourselves, thinking, I know what is best for me? Many years ago, when I was first ordained, I was given an opportunity to teach in one of our high schools. However, I thought, no, I don't want to go into teaching and prefer other ministries, only later to discover I did enjoy teaching and would have enjoyed the opportunity to teach in a high school. God gives us many opportunities, and hopefully we don't pass them up more than once in our lives. The scriptures this weekend tell us the same. We hear in the prophet Ezekiel how God will take from the crest of the cedar, tear off a tender shoot, and plant it on a high and lofty mountain. The shoot will put forth branches and bear fruit and become a majestic cedar. If you have a beautiful tall cedar growing, how many of us would think of cutting off its top to let it grow elsewhere when it is doing just fine where it is? But God sees it otherwise, by taking it and planting it on top of a lofty mountain. Again, Ezekiel reminds us God's ways are not our ways. In a similar image, he says, the Lord will bring low the high tree, lift high the lowly tree, wither up the green tree, and make the withered tree bloom. Somewhat in the same vein, Jesus teaches us about the kingdom of God. He uses an example very common for the people of his day who live off the produce of their land. Man scatters seed on the land. It would sleep and rise night and day, and through it all the seed would sprout and grow, he knows not how. The people didn't have the science we have today, but recognized that God was ultimately in control of their harvest. And when you look at a mustard seed, who would know that when it is sown in the ground, as the smallest of all the seeds on the earth, it would spring up and become the largest of plants and put forth large branches so that the birds of the sky can dwell in its shade? Jesus is talking about the kingdom of God and uses these examples to get across his teaching on it. Today we are still in the midst of the kingdom of God unfolding before us. And in looking around at our world and our church and in our communities, we may need to keep in mind God's ways are not our ways. Most of us can remember the grandeur of the church, what we would say was its heyday in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, those times just before and after Vatican II. Again, God's ways are not our ways. Today we see so much change in our parishes, in our schools, and in our communities. Smaller number of people in churches, in schools, and in the communities. Yes, we can point to economic conditions, but I suspect there's more to it than just that. I have often said that God has been pruning us back for new growth. Remember Ezekiel speaking about cutting off the crest of the cedar, planted elsewhere for greater growth. And Jesus speaking about the small mustard seed that grows and puts forth large branches. We see the growth in so many developing countries, while we see it pruning back in our region or nation. I have to believe that, as I've been saying, God's ways are not our ways. And I see the pruning for the future. You and I must remain faithful to the gospel and the teachings of Jesus. You and I are called to continue to work the land and fertilize it for the new growth that will take place. We call this evangelization. I'm Father Ray Thomas for Wineskins.
So the good news is this: the same God who has caught us up in love will use our good deeds to make God's kingdom come. We plant those seeds, God does the rest. Wineskins is a production of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Youngstown. It is brought to you by the annual Diocesan Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. I'm your host, Father Jim Korda, wishing you a beautiful week. And we of Wineskins want to extend our prayers and blessings to all the dads on this Father's Day.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. But she's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
They say America is the land of opportunity, but for some, life isn't so easy. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children lives below the poverty line. That's nearly 13 million children of all races, all across our country. Where do you draw the line and get involved? You can make a difference in more ways than you think. Go to povertyusa.org today, because 1 in 6 children in poverty is one too many. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.